Welcome to Inner Voice of Knowing podcast. I'm Kay Doran, a shamanic leadership coach and healer, guiding you through life with a foot in both worlds. When you understand the terrain of the inner landscapes, the mental, emotional, spiritual and energetic, you will become the leader within your physical life, both personally and professionally. After all, the power of change is in your hands. Let's get this journey started. Welcome back to Inner Voice of Knowing. Everything in life has pattern and design, like a recipe. And you'll always hear me saying about weaving the tapestry of life, the cycles, the formula, if you will. And it's within every single area of our life and the way that we are being and the way that we are doing and exploring. And life can be incredibly simple when we start to understand that these cycles, these patterns are playing out every moment of every day. Have you ever had a moment where you wake up and you feel amazing, and in those first 3 minutes you've fed from the mind, you've chosen your thoughts, you've fed your brain, you've aligned your emotional body, physically you feel great, expansive, and something happens in that day and we go, it's because of them, it's because of this. No, it's because it struck another pattern, another design that exists within us that shakes us off from where we were. And then we judge that as bad or as wrong or as negative. But here's the thing, when we start seeing what's taking place for us, within these patterns, within this formula, within this design, and I'm using multiple words because it will strike a chord for different people and the language that they relate to. So you'll often hear me explain something and maybe in a few different ways or even repetitively, because sometimes we need to hear it and it lands, and then it lands, and then it lands. And that's the integrative process. But it can also work the other way. I had a morning at the beginning of the week and I woke and I just felt flat, unmotivated, flat. I'd been going through a lot, therefore I'd been exploring a lot within me, asking a lot of power questions, a real explorative journey and a deep questioning. And a pattern that keeps playing. Now, I did my journaling, I pulled a card, that was great. But those days when you do some of what is asked, and it was enough to motivate me to go, just go for a walk. Don't even plan the day. Just a moment of well-being and self-care, because the energy, the expansiveness will return. So I gave myself the love, and the love was to still do a few things that, I journaled, but my journaling was different. My journaling was very much an expressive and why, and asking the questions. The card really validated how I was feeling. So the compassion. And then the understanding that, okay, I've got to just give myself some space here. So I went to my husband and I said, hey, I'm going to go for a walk. Do you want to join me? Now, here's the difference also from a want and a need. I wanted to just stay isolated. I wanted to walk on my own. But when I checked in what I needed my husband to walk with me. So I asked the question, not a neediness, some deep soulful need that I listened to, because I understand the process. And we did this amazing walk, and I felt my irritation, and I shared how I'd woken up feeling. He didn't respond because there were people walking past, and he felt it was a sensitive subject to not let others listen into. We got to the boardwalk that goes out over the lake. It was magnificent. And I did one of my shamanic practices, and I just said thank you to all the elements. But I looked at the water and I said thank you to the element of water. Please use your energy to wash over me and emotionally align me. Because if you're feeling flat, if you're feeling down, if it feels a bit depressive and a bit heavy, that's a language. That's a signal saying to you there is something going on. It's not just something we have to go, oh, well, okay, or it's because of this situation, or it's because of this person. No, it is your soul, it is your emotional self, it is your body, it is your mind, it is every part of you because it's intricately connected. Hence, I say, even the conversation that I have with guests or that I'm having even with you, I'm weaving a tapestry of energetic understanding. I'm weaving a tapestry within myself. If you feel a resonance with this, you're weaving a tapestry within yourself because it's landing for you. And we're always weaving a tapestry. The question is, what colours are you putting into your tapestry? Now, mine felt a bit dark and a bit heavy and a bit washed out. But the interesting thing is, everything is connected. We are connected to everything, and everything is connected to us. That oneness. So when I was calling on the element of the water and already giving gratitude, saying, I know you're going to wash this and bring my emotions back into alignment and bring me some clarity, clear the mud. This is how fast it happened for me. Not always that fast. This is how fast it happened. I turned after I said thank you. I took 5 paces. I felt my throat, my energy move into my throat, and I'm like, I need to speak. And I spoke calmly. It became emotional. And I realized that my husband responded so beautifully, and I was heard and I was validated because I was speaking from a place of calm and also unexpected. And yes, there was an emotion, but I was not overly emotional, which is what happens when we hold on to it, which is probably what would have happened to me had I not asked for the support through my journaling, through my questioning, and through my prayer, and to my inviting and giving thanks, in particular to the element of water. And guess what happened? The mud got cleared. I felt lighter. And it was a beautiful walk. And suddenly, I then felt like breathing in the beauty. I felt the gratitude of that moment. I felt the gratitude to the energy of water, to source, to soul, of all the elements, of everything within and around me, of the seen and the unseen. Great thanks to my body, because I was willing to go with the change, with the formula, with the pattern, with the cycle, with the tapestry, without bringing judgment to the heaviness of how I woke up. There was an opportunity, every opportunity in every moment, to give ourselves that love, to give ourselves that compassion, to allow understanding to rise up, and for the release But here's the thing. We're forgetting at times and not remembering that every moment holds an opportunity to repattern, to change the recipe, to reprogram, to flow with the cycle. And this is the being that leads to the external release for flow in doing. And my whole day shifted. My whole day shifted. And in that moment, I knew it was time to then harness the heart intelligence breathwork, the depth of gratitude to my partner and my husband and my friend walking at my side for being open and listening, the moment to create a plan together to overcome a challenge that had played out for us, because that's what relationships do. They present challenges, friendships, work colleagues. And in there lies the seed of the greatest opportunity for your expansion and spiritual growth. In those challenges, in those things that get triggered inside of us, is our greatest spiritual moment and opportunity. And then the question is, what are you going to do with it? So when we understand that the mind is what programs the brain, grows those new neural pathways, gives it direct, and it's almost like the mind is the first place to start. And that will determine the nourishment or the decay, the expansion or the contraction. Which recipe do you want to work with? Which cycle do you choose? Which pattern of tapestry are you choosing? Because there are choices before us in every moment. And then we infuse feeling into it. And I'm going to tell you a secret. If you've got your eyes closed and you're saying within your mind, I am calm, I am expansive, I choose to flourish in every moment. If you smile, you will feel a certain joy and connection. You will strike something within you. If you put an image to that, what you're doing is you're connecting the mind with the brain, with the intelligence of the heart. And that's putting you into the creative field or the quantum field, whichever language you like to use. And even though you may not feel more expansive, you've started the process. You've given direction. It becomes an invocation, an aligned invocation, an aligned directive, because energy is everything and everything is energy. And the energy cannot be destroyed, but it can be redirected. And then the movement. So I ask you this, do you have a platter of go-tos that are very simple, but you know they're profound? Do you bring judgment to how you feel, or do you understand the landscape that you're traveling through and the language of what you're feeling and what it's saying to you? I have a 12-week program called the Launching Pad, and I am so aware when I created this. Well, it actually started years ago, and then it refined and reduced from 6 months to 12 weeks because I felt 6 months was too long. I became very aware because I understand the patterning and the sequencing within the energetics of things. And I've done this for 35 years and watched these patterns within my own life and then within those around me and the many that I've worked with. And I see the sequence. I see the formula. I feel the sequence. I feel the formula. I feel the design. I see the design. I understand the terrain and I understand the language that's serving us, like what was being spoken to me that morning at the beginning of the week when I felt heavy. I knew that it was telling me where I am. So I knew that I needed to bring love and compassion to it, and the understanding would come. I knew that the suppression of it and the ignorance that can be brought to it at times and has been in the past would not serve me. Would not serve me, would not serve my business, would not serve my life, would not serve those around me. Because the suppression of it is harder in the long run. Putting our hand up to go and see somebody, such as myself or whoever's in your vicinity, in your orbit, and if there isn't someone in your orbit, then you ask to be shown who to see, who to ask for support along the way. And we all do because we're all human on this path. But what I'm trying to share with you is the patterns have purpose. When you understand that purpose, life becomes beautiful, even within the challenges. Because the challenges, not just lip service, are telling you something, reflecting back to you something. It's part of the cycle, part of the pattern. And also, don't wake up with the expectation that something may not, if you start feeling strong and expansive in the day, something may just shake you up a little bit. That's okay. You've got this. You've got a split second of choice. Every moment you have a split second of choice to be reactive or proactive. So choose. And if it has really triggered you, don't judge it. If you end up angry, whatever it might be, the moment again you choose to bring yourself back to the present and go, this has got nothing to do with anything external or anyone external. This is to do with me. Where am I at in my cycle? Now, women all know that. Where am I at in my menstrual cycle? Where am I in the cycle of my growth? And so as we learn things, and I've witnessed this with so many people, they might learn about boundaries. They play with it for a bit and then they default back. And then they blame other people when their boundaries are crossed. But your boundaries, your parameters are for you. And don't expect other people to live by them, certainly if you haven't told them. I'm sure I've talked about this before. But that boundary, that parameter is so you can breathe and choose to respond according to, choose to communicate according to what is taking place and whether they're being acknowledged or not. And it's not a blame on somebody else. They're only capable of what they're capable of. Everyone has unconscious stuff going on, playing out. driving our vehicles of life. It's about bringing conscious awareness into our minds and then weaving that thread of conscious awareness through us, changing the brain, changing us emotionally, changing us internally so we then actually action. But if you can learn about tipping points, you can learn about subconscious false stories and beliefs. You can learn about breath. You can learn about meditation. You can learn about the leap involved in growth. You can learn the concepts like, like the lotus, we start in the mud in the base chakra and we grow from that mud and we get to the crown and it's embodied. And then it all spirals back through. But alone they are concepts like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle thrown out of the box, just a mess on the table. We have to turn them over. We look at the picture on the box. And sometimes we're looking so hard, we can't see where it goes. More often than not, the patterning that triggers, right, the false stories and beliefs within us, the patterning that's held, stored in neural pathways in the brain, stored within the nervous system and the body itself, stored within the emotional body. Trigger, 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 trigger. Because I have all these pieces, but until we reweave what's happening from inside of us, updating that wiring system, we don't know where those pieces go, and we're usually not taught the sequence, the patterning, the formula of how that change happens and in what that sequence is and making sense of it. That's why my 12-week program, the Launching Pad, is so powerful. And everyone says so simple and so powerful, because spiritual truth and spiritual practices are simple on the surface, but have multiple layers of what is actually really going on. So when you learn the sequencing, when you learn that each moment things can change because it's speaking to us, the mirror externally, what's taking place internally, whether we're being proactive, whether we're being reactive, when we're going through something, when we're deep questioning, when we might feel flat, where you might go back to an old only to recognize that old coat doesn't fit anymore. There's a moment in your change where that can happen. Now, here's the thing. I've been doing this a very long time. I still have exactly the same, but I move through it a whole lot faster because of that understanding, because of recognizing the terrain, because of recognizing the language of when something comes up and what it's trying to tell me exactly where I am, like a beautiful signpost going, this is where you are, Kay. Here's the proof. Now, which way are you going to go? I've watched that with clients when they've done a lot of growth and a lot of growth and a lot of growth, and then they get to that point and they recoil. And then they start the projections externally because of what's being triggered internally, and then they spiral down and they try on something old until something or someone, depends if you're working with me, will come in, pull you out of that mud and help you remember and make sense of how you got there, the beauty of it, but also the lesson within it. In other words, the whole patterning of that sequence from here to here, the whole cycle, the whole terrain. Nothing wrong and nothing right, it just is. So here's the thing. Can we accept that it just simply is? And that this is the soulful, authentic journey within our human experience. Let that one land. So I can speak to you, I can speak to someone and say, hey, this is what's happened for you. This is where it started. This is how it unfolded. This is where it triggered. This is what you did or didn't do. No blame, no judgment. This is the choice you make because this happened because of this choice back here. Might be because you had a quick knowing, but you didn't follow the emotional arc until it became a whole-bodied knowing. Why? Because there was fear. Not sitting with the fear and doing the process that's on the homepage of my website. So simple, so profound. To defuse them, you didn't peel away the layers and embody that knowing where you wouldn't have needed, or we don't need the reflection back or the trigger, or if it's there, it's like it's no reflection and no trigger because we are filled with certainty. That doesn't mean they were wrong decisions. Remember, we're here to have that cycle, that patterning of learning, and that will come again. Rinse and repeat, my friends. Rinse and repeat. And it will start again. And each time you stay the course, you will move through things faster. You will recognize where you are. You will recognize why you're now in sabotage if you understand the pattern, the terrain, the language of why something is happening now, and the absolute perfection of that cycle, of that patterning, of that formula, of the reasoning for it, for you. So, be mindful of what you learn, where it fits, for what purpose. I did a post today inside my Facebook group about smudging because for 36, 37, 38 years, I've heard people talk about smudging. Why do you smudge? Because it cleanses the energy. It goes deeper than that. And people then stop smudging because they haven't been given a deeper explanation, a deeper layered understanding of exactly how it clears the energy, shifts the energy, realigns the energy. So do you see, we don't just want scattered pieces of a puzzle. We want to know the sequence of how we put that all together. That piece there, that piece there, that piece there, that piece there, that piece there. Until it's figured out. I've got a grandson who's not quite 4. He's extraordinary. For over a year or so, he's been doing 100-piece puzzles. Then we bought him a 300-piece puzzle for his 3rd birthday. Can master that. We took him and his little sister out the other day. There was a puzzle on a table. Not that difficult, but he'd never done that one before. And he refused to leave because he had one moment. This is a beautiful example. He was seeing those pieces. He was getting so many of them. There were a few at the end, about a third of it. and he was happy to leave it. But then as we went to leave, he came back and he sat back down, and it's like, no. And then we realised, because he needed to see the whole pattern, the whole sequence, where every piece went. So we gave him that time because we knew he would do it. We knew how important it was to him. And that will be a lesson for him throughout every area of his life. The pattern and the sequencing of the mind, the pattern and the sequencing of how that and what it does and affects the brain, the patterns and the sequencing of what that does for us emotionally, the patterns and sequencing of what that does for us physically, and therefore all of it energetically, and then the patterns and the sequencing and the beautiful tapestry of how that turns us into conscious crafters and creators and directors of our lives and our outcomes, without trying to control and eradicate any single part that is meant to be there. So much love to you. Listen to this a few times, please. Take some notes. This is jam-packed. On the surface, it'll seem simple. This is jam-packed. And then I also invite you to go back to the episode. I'll give my producer the episode to put into the notes of the sequence of the chakra system. And I have listeners that have been studying chakras for years, and they've come back to me going, wow, that was incredible. There are elements in there that I just had never heard before. Because that's what I do as the shaman, my friends. I'm very aware of the patterns, of the cycles, of the sequencing, of the tapestry, of what tapestries we're unweaving and reweaving. And it must start from within. And please, don't ignore everything that's going on inside of you. There is nothing wrong with you. You just haven't learnt the language of it yet. And please go to the Defuse Your Fears. It's a free PDF. You're not going to be hassled. Download it. Work with it. The power of change is in your hands. And you have got this. I feel you. I see you. I hear you. I know you. I love you. And I'm here for you. So much love. Join me on my next episode. And if you love this podcast, please subscribe by clicking on the plus button if you're on Apple, or like and follow on Spotify. Rate and review. And please share Inner Voice of Knowing with your friends.